Statistics South Africa has released its quarterly labour force survey after a delay of more than a month. And the results do make for fairly grim reading. The results for the fourth quarter of 2021 show that unemployment in South Africa rose by about 40 basis points to 35.3%. It's the highest rate since 2008 when these quarterly labour force surveys started. Now, the report covers labour market activities of people between the ages of 15 and 64. It also showed a 30 basis point rise in the fourth quarter of 2021 compared to the third quarter. Decreases observed mainly in manufacturing, followed by construction, utilities and transport. The number of employed persons did go up by over 262,000 to 14.5 million. The number of unemployed persons, however, did go up by 278,000. There are now just under 8 million people who are unemployed in South Africa. So let's explore these numbers and trends in a bit more detail. Sumitra Naidu joins us now live from Johannesburg. Sumitra, these numbers do make for very grim reading. What reactions are you getting, especially from the business community?
Well, Rama, most business groups are still digesting the data. It's no real surprise, but still a rather disappointing set of numbers. South Africa has been struggling with this unemployment issue for years. Today's official number is a new record high, but it's been hitting new highs since 2008. The unemployment rate has been steadily rising. Now, big business has said before that the environment is just not conducive enough. For years, the private sector has been reluctant to invest to create more job opportunities because of the uncertainty. The electricity crisis has been one of the biggest hindrances. Industry has been battling with unstable power supply. Corruption has been another issue. Education, people in and entering the workforce don't have the skills we require. Government policy thus far has been inadequate and ineffective. Now, for years, there's been calls for pro-business reforms. All of the promises and targets made over the years have not materialized. And, while there seems to be quite a bit of focus on developing and supporting the small and medium enterprises, the majority of these businesses that have failed say it was just too challenging. It was onerous and costly. Not exactly what you want to hear if you're trying to create employment. Rama?
Indeed, and the trade sector created about 118,000 jobs in the fourth quarter as the bulk of these pandemic restrictions that we saw across South Africa were lifted. But is that a one-off thing? Is that trend likely to continue into the first half of 2022?
Yeah, so this was a combination of fewer COVID restrictions and also thousands of people getting back to work after the July riots. So almost coming off a low base. It was private households, trade, community and social services that increased employment over 260,000. Now, there's mixed views on this one. Some experts believe we are in a slight recovery as countries regional and internationally open up further. It will continue to grow. But some are again concerned about, especially about import-export trade, the bottlenecks at the harbour and transport logistics. Transnet, another state-owned entity, has been plagued by corruption and mismanagement, poor maintenance, even theft and vandalism. So all of these have caused a major backlog, and obviously that could also hinder this, making a dent into this unemployment rate. Rama?
What's the latest on the government proposal that we saw, I believe it was earlier this month, about having quotas for foreign nationals within the job market in South Africa?
So the discussions are still underway, but it's such a delicate situation. So many quarters have warned against it. The Department of Labour is looking into proposing a limitation on foreign workers and looking particularly at illegal immigrants. It doesn't want to stop legally documented workers from seeking employment in South Africa, but it does want to stop people from working here illegally. It looks like the department is proposing quotas for different service industries, but nothing has been confirmed as yet. Some rights organizations are totally opposed on any restrictions or quotas, saying that the ANC is basically bowing down to xenophobic sentiment and it would be the wrong move.
Indeed. Also, one last question for you. Just looking at this over the big picture, right? Unemployment has remained over 20% for the last 20 years, I believe. South Africa has remained over roughly the same period of time stuck in this 2% a year growth trap. And what's the ANC's response to this dismal economic trend?
Well, again, nothing new here. Unemployment has been steadily increasing, and none of the measures and efforts put in place over the years have worked, or at least seen the desired results. Local and international organizations and agencies have long called for drastic changes in labor reform, in policy reform, educational reform, and the government has given back in bits and pieces that will keep you quiet and busy for a while until you get fed up again. And we saw this last year during the July riots, the anger growing over unemployment and poverty really boiling over in the KwaZulu-Natal province. We are seeing this fight for jobs boil over into xenophobia as well. Just a few weeks ago here in Johannesburg, in the Alexandra township, this gap between rich and poor is getting wider. Urgent change is needed. Whether the ANC is going to make any of these urgent changes anytime soon, no one actually knows. Even at 2% economic growth, it's just not enough to make a dent in the unemployment rate. And just a reminder, policy currently in place, the new development plan, requires at least a 5% growth in order for this plan to work. So at 2% over the next few years is just not adequate enough to make any kind of change here or any dent in this unemployment rate.
Indeed, 2% a year, especially after the damage inflicted by the pandemic. We'll leave it there for the time being. Sumitra Naidu live in Johannesburg.